Welcome to another edition of Forecast Lab. We're 2 weeks away from the start of fall. We've got a very quiet pattern in the Caribbean and the Atlantic because right now we are at the peak sea surface temperature period. But there's nothing going on out there. However, in the Western Gulf, we are expecting some tropical cyclone development around midweek. There's a quick look at the National Hurricane Center forecast. They've bumped this up from 30 to 40% chance in the Bay of Campeche. And you probably remember that the GFS was pinpointing this general area about a week ago. There has not been a vigorous development of activity out there, but this is certainly something to watch. And there's also the possibility for development east of the Leeward Islands, but they've only got a 10% chance of that coming together. Let's take a look at the GFS forecast. At the top, you can see when it is valid. That is UTC time. There's the forecast hour. And this shows us the wind streamlines and the ice attacks. If you look at the scale off to the right and look at those different bands, we've got the tropical depression strength in dark blue, the light tropical storm in aqua, strong tropical storm in green, and then we pick up the hurricane strength colors. So starting out, some very weak winds. We've got this one little disturbance off the Texas coast, another one near Belize. This is going to be the one of interest. And as we go forward through the rest of the evening and into tomorrow, this is going to be midday tomorrow, you can see this little area of closed circulation in the Bay of Campeche, and that moves on up towards the northwest very slowly, going into Monday. And then Tuesday, you can see the center down to 996 millibars later on Monday. Still, the winds, though, those are going to be weak tropical storm strength. Don't know if we're going to have a tropical depression or a tropical storm. We're just going to have to wait and see on that. But it does interact with the land very quickly, but moves up the coast probably as a tropical depression or a weak tropical disturbance, and then moving up the Texas coast. So this is not really forecast to be very strong at all, but it will have a pretty significant moisture field associated with it. Here's the European forecast showing the center of the circulation over Belize. I don't think the European is quite as accurate as the GFS in this region, but moving out into the Bay of Campeche, not much definition, 1005 millibars by Sunday, and it pretty much dissipates out there near Veracruz. The dominant system is actually that one off the Texas coast, tends to linger there. You can see the onshore flow going into East Texas for Tuesday and Wednesday. And that will certainly keep the precipitation chances up, but you can see not much in the way of wind. So I'll put it together for you with the integrated vapor transport chart. Again, this is used mostly for flash flood forecasting, atmospheric rivers, but since this integrates wind velocity and the availability of moisture, specific humidity, this is useful for drawing your eye to where the tropical cyclone action is, both wind and rain. So currently we've got Invest 90L off of Houston. That is going to be slowly weakening, and then we've got, of course, the system crossing the Yucatan. So we bring this up into Saturday. Lots of action there in the Bay of Campeche, Veracruz, Tampico, and according to the GFS, the southern storm becomes dominant Sunday, and then starting to work up the coast. You can see a bit of intensification indicated Sunday going into Monday. And then it weakens as we get that land interaction, and then drifts right up the coast into Texas for Wednesday. But strong wind velocity, lots of moisture, 2 to 2.5 inch precipitable water. That's going to mean a lot of rain, at least possibly 5 to 10 inches on the Texas coast and 3 to 5 inches inland. And even though I said strong winds, I'm talking relatively. We're looking at tropical depression type winds, maybe weak tropical storm in the 20 to 30 mile an hour range. So nothing too terrible. At least that's the way it looks right now. Now, this is the best we can do with the data that we have. So I can't really tell you how confident we are about this track. We're just going to have to wait and see. This is 132 hours out. This is pretty far into the future as far as tropical forecasting is involved. So join us on Monday and we'll tell you what it's doing. On Monday, it will be looking something like this. So that'll give us ample time to evaluate for Houston, Corpus Christi, and areas inland. Okay, let's get off the tropical cyclone horse and look at the weather elsewhere around the country. We've got a blast of cold air coming southward into the Great Lakes and the Midwest. Temperatures in the 60s and 70s this afternoon. And you go into the UP of Michigan, much colder. We've got, I think, a high of 52 at Marquette and 51 up there around Ontonagon. 70 at Buffalo, and those dew points rather high, up into the 60s, and that's helping to support areas of showers and thunderstorms. We do have a marginal risk from the Storm Prediction Center of severe thunderstorms from northern Pennsylvania into Ohio and into the Cincinnati area. The remainder of the activity should be below severe limits. This cold front representing a fresh incursion of cold air into the Red River region. And this time of year, it is going to kick up thunderstorms and showers, and also an outflow boundary currently pushing through South Dallas down towards Midlothian and into the Burleson area south of Fort Worth. Showers and thunderstorms also moving through the Eastland Ranger area out towards Abilene. Not much in the way of weather out west. However, we do have a heat wave going on. Let's look at the current temperatures. Currently looking at 109 at Phoenix, 111 at Needles, and 112 degrees at Ontario. They're getting some rather severe heat in the Los Angeles area down to San Diego in the foothills there. You can see 111 at Ramona. The other temperatures we have, let's see, 110 at Riverside, and even in Los Angeles, LAX, 101, and that's with a sea breeze. So I don't know if we have 90s or 80s offshore. That's a good question. Can't imagine the air would heat up that much just coming onto the coast, but maybe the wind flow is a little bit on the weak side. Anyway, that's very interesting. Kind of an anomalous event for that part of California. And plenty of heat up there in the San Joaquin Valley as well. 103 at Lemoore Naval Air Station and 100 at Sacramento. A quick look at the weather region by region. We've got this strong system off of Massachusetts. That's an extratropical low, Invest 99L, and that's rapidly exiting the picture. You can see a well-defined dry slot working into the backside, and this, of course, is the wraparound. Strong frontal system moving through the Great Lakes area, Ontario, down to Lake Erie. We talked about that earlier. We've got that marginal risk through Ohio and northeastern Pennsylvania, and a few strong storms going up already north of Pittsburgh. There it is on the radar animation, strong storms northeast of Porterville. And then we move into Ohio, a few severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for these isolated cells. This other cluster out here, that's going to be around Cambridge, and another cell moving into the Columbus area out of radar range. However, this is not particularly strong. Thankfully, we don't need any severe weather this time of year. We've got small craft advisories all up and down the East Coast, and be aware in Massachusetts, Cape Cod, Nantucket Islands, we do have a rip current statement, so be careful if you're hitting the beaches this weekend. Further south, flood watch is in effect in the Jacksonville and Brunswick area due to excessive rainfall, excessive runoff with some of these storms, and down in southern Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the Everglades, Key West, and Naples, they've got a heat advisory as heat indexes will be coming up to 110. Flood watch through Saturday evening in the western Florida Panhandle. We're talking about Panama City northward into the interior. Could be some heavy rains there, and you could see quite a bit of rain to go around all the way from Charleston, Jacksonville, back towards New Orleans. There's a quick summary of those flood watches. The one around Jacksonville, Brunswick, the other around Panama City, and the third one around Gulfport, New Orleans, out towards Lafayette. Looks like they might have dropped this other area around Beaumont, Lake Charles. It was showing earlier, but it appears to be gone. Shifting out to the southern plains, of course, off the Texas coast, we've got Invest 90L. You can check that out on the infrared imagery, shows up rather well. And that convection in the Red River region also showing up, giving us a very granular look. Looks like ceiling texture. So back to that visible imagery, yeah, plenty of convection all the way from Memphis, all the way to Dallas, Lubbock, and Midland. You can see there's been some decrease in the monsoon activity, mostly confined to the highest elevations of the White Mountains and the Mogollon Rim. And of course, we do have northeasterly flow filtering into that region, which has interrupted the monsoon pattern as well. We do have a gale watch off the Texas coast, Matagorda Bay to Port Arthur in this area here. We're looking for northeast winds, 25 to 30 knots, gusting to 40. Seas could be up to 7 to 11 feet. Closer to the coast, small craft advisories. Winds will be gusting to 30 knots. In the northern plains, of course, the cold air is moving south. We mentioned that earlier. Lots of cold advection cumulus across that entire region. You can see that open cell appearance to the clouds. And where it's a little bit more convectively stable, we have more of a closed cell appearance. Freeze warning for tonight in the Arrowhead of Minnesota. And we've got widespread frost advisories from northern Wisconsin into northeastern Minnesota. That's going to be north of a line from Wausau to Rice Lake, Pine City, Minnesota, and to just north of Brainerd. Temperatures will be near 32. In the southwestern region, as we mentioned, big heat wave continues. 110s widespread through all of the lower deserts. So check it out. There's the excessive heat warning all the way from Tucson and Phoenix to Las Vegas and all the way to the Pacific coast. Embedded in that, we've got red flag warnings, enhanced risk of fire danger in the mountains north and northwest of Los Angeles, so you really need to be careful with those cookouts. Further north in the San Joaquin Valley, heat advisory, temperatures will be 95 to 105. And in the Pacific Northwest, we've got excessive heat warnings there as well, from Portland down the Willamette Valley into parts of the Cascades. Temperatures running 95 to 100 degrees. We're looking for a high of 99 at Portland, and inland, 101 at Lewiston. The rest of this is all heat advisories, looking for 85 to 95 in the Seattle area. Fortunately, it is going to start getting better over the next few days. So that concludes your look at the weather in the lower 48. Heading out into the Pacific, there's the North Pacific High, getting broken down by a very active Gulf of Alaska pattern. Yet another North Pacific system driving into southeastern Alaska. No warnings, no hazards, just the usual marine statements out there south of the southern Alaska coast. Then moving into Canada itself, we've got a slight return to fall. Temperatures in the 50s and 40s. So that is a slight cool down from what we had over the past couple weeks. A dry frontal system in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Then as we move to the east, we pick up rainfall warnings. Those extend all the way from central Quebec into western Quebec. Rainfall amounts there could be 2 to 4 inches. We do have rainfall warnings as well in Nova Scotia for tomorrow. They could see quite a bit of rain over the weekend. Just a quick look at the precipitable water. Lots of moisture down along the Gulf Coast, looking for 2 to 2.5 inches there. And of course, along that convergence zone along the front, we're seeing 1 to 1.5 inch of precipitable water. But some dry air on the way south that will change the air mass in many parts of the country this weekend. One little pocket of moisture across the Central Plains remaining in place. And then as we get that next area of disturbed weather Tuesday or Wednesday, that will bring a moisture surge into East Texas and Louisiana. And I'll just show you this real quick. This was just generated, showing that tropical depression or tropical storm coming northward along the Texas coast on Tuesday. Then we go into Wednesday, crossing Corpus Christi, moving up towards Victoria, and that brings a band of stronger winds into the Houston area, looking at 30 to 35 knot gusts, according to this particular solution, and then moving inland as we go into early Thursday. So anyway, that's 5 days out. We're just going to have to wait and see and check if there's any model changes between now and then. Going into tomorrow, let's look at the animation of the forecast. We've got a strong frontal system moving into New York and Pennsylvania. We're going to see high chances for rain and storms along that boundary, especially in New York and eastern Pennsylvania. That'll move into New England during the evening. Some cool temperatures in the wake, looking for highs around 60 at Syracuse and Buffalo, and 65 around State College. Overnight lows tomorrow night will be in the 40s. In the north-central U.S., cold overnight temperatures in the Great Lakes, looking for 30s Saturday night across Wisconsin as this 1022 millibar high sinks southeastward. Continued hot in the deserts, looking for 100s and 110s, a slight moderation to the heat wave, and some rains developing across the higher elevations of northwestern and north-central Arizona, remaining rather dry out east. Then we go into Sunday, rainy in Maine, but we get this advance of dry, cool air into much of the northeast. So by midday, we're looking at something like this, much of the east and central parts of the country covered by this large anticyclone. It will be another night of very cool temperatures. We're going to be looking at 40s all the way down to Knoxville and Paducah, and 50s all the way to Birmingham, Monroe, Louisiana, and into East Texas. Continued hot in the deserts, the rains expand northward into Utah late Sunday. Florida, more rain chances with that persistent stationary front. I'm not going to point that out each day, but each day they will be getting precipitation, especially in the central and northern parts of the state. Instability, moisture, and shear in an uncapped air mass helping to develop and organize that storm activity. Monday morning will be quite cold across parts of Texas, looking at those mid-50s in East Texas with 60 around Dallas. Continued hot in the southwestern U.S. Most of the rain will be around Flagstaff up to Grand Canyon. Then we're looking at the approach of that potential tropical system in the Texas Gulf Coast area. Good chances for 7 to 10 inches in the coastal regions with lesser amounts up to the north. And we're looking at significant drying for Tuesday into Wednesday in the Arizona deserts. Cooling in the northwestern U.S. with a new cold front sinking southeastward, looking for highs of 69 at Seattle and 88 at Boise. And that area will be cooling down as well. Then we go into Thursday, the remnants of that tropical system moving into the lower Mississippi River Valley. This Pacific front starting to become stationary. The upper level flow perpendicular to that, so most of the cool air and weather will be heading into the Dakotas and into central Canada. You can see already by the 186, 198 hour point, not very much going on in the central U.S. Mostly looking at this lee side trough there in Texas with a little bit of thunderstorm activity as we lose the cap. And that's all for this edition of Forecast Lab. I want to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Victor Hawk, stepping up to the plate with the request that I made back on Wednesday. Victor, thank you very much for helping us support the program. People like you are very important to this project. And I want to thank our other Patreon supporters, people like Christine Cortez, Dwayne, Fanatical Apathy, Barry Martin, Robert Vermillion, Carl Watts, John Menifee. Unfortunately, too many to list, but each of your contributions very helpful. And I'm thinking about maybe starting some live videos for the supporters, maybe on Mondays. So we'll go ahead and reevaluate that next week and maybe see if we can put something like that together. I know a lot of our viewers do enjoy those live shows. Others don't really like them so much because it's harder to really consolidate the information into a short block and make it very dense with forecast information. So there's some trade-offs either way. So we'll see what we can do. And at the very least, we'll keep doing these recorded videos for Wednesday and Friday. And if we pick up more supporters, maybe we'll start adding another day to the lineup. All right, hope you all have a great rest of your Friday, and we'll see you back here again on Monday for the supporters and Wednesday for everybody else. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.